Auditors. Life on the blockchain.
Welcome back to Bounty Hunters Life on the Blockchain. I'm your humble host, Riptide. And we have a very interesting guest today, a little bit different. Before we kick off, we all know we got a shout out about the Fuzzing Kings over at getrecon.xyz. Use /Riptide on that to get the hugest deal of your life. $5,000 off for first time customers for an invariant testing engagement. These guys, guys, if you want to fuzz, you want to find the bugs, you got to get Recon. If you're a project, you want to deploy, you want to put it out live on the blockchain, you're not fuzzing, you're crazy. You got to get recon.xyz /Riptide, get in there, talk to Alex, have a consult. He'll sell you on it. You'll be secure, or nothing's perfect, but it's going to be much more secure than if you did not do a fuzz. If you deploy without fuzzing, you're crazy. You heard it here first. Also, if you want to get some skills for the bounty hunters out there, go to rareskills.io /Riptide, get 10% off a boot camp. And let's kick it off. So today we have Mr. chasethelight, the creator of Lightchaser. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. Thank you for having me on. Also, I love your intro.
I'm just making it up as I go, man. No, thanks for joining, man. I have I'm not a contest guy, but I have read plenty of the after action reports and contests, the bug write ups, and I don't know when I saw you, probably more than a year ago, and I'm like, what is this light chaser dude? Like, what is this? What's this guy running here? How does he find all these? Because I remember before you were on the scene, people would get on there and they would submit things. They'd get like, oh, zero address missing, and they would earn $20 or whatever it was. And then obviously, kind of tell us how you said, hey, I'm going to just enter into this arena, taking, I don't know if you based it off a Slither or Mithril, or kind of talk about the background of this tool and why you got started.
Absolutely. So Lightchaser has a bit of a weird start. So I actually began development of Lightchaser in late 2021. So it's actually quite old. But its original purpose wasn't necessarily for vulnerability detection, at least not initially. This is I'll do a quick rundown of the history of Lightchaser real quick. So around 2021, 2022, obviously that was like DeFi summer, and like a lot of these like little projects were launching, and I think on Reddit or something like that, I kind of saw these little projects, and when I kind of saw that some people were essentially 100xing like overnight, I was like, oh, that's interesting. um, so I kind of like read up on it a little bit, and on the Binance Smart Chain, I kind of went on PancakeSwap, which is the Binance Smart Chain
Mm-hmm.
equivalent of Uniswap, and yeah, I just kind of found a random token on Reddit, and yeah, I think I put in like $15 or $20, like a small amount, and yeah, it went up like 50% or something like that. Oh, that's like pretty cool. So I just kind of just did that randomly, but then one time when I did that, my money essentially just magically vanished. I was like, what on earth happened? So and obviously that happened to me quite a few times, and obviously I wanted to investigate what was going on. So I kind of looked into it, and I knew about smart contracts, but I didn't really know what they were. So I kind of I looked into that, and that okay, so they're essentially code that that's what these UIs are connected to. So when I'm doing something through PancakeSwap, it's actually calling these functions on the EVM. And once I started digging through that, I started reading contracts, and because I had a C background, and if C is one of your first few languages, if you, in my personal opinion, if you learn C, learning any other language becomes far easier. So I actually learned Solidity very quickly. I didn't really need to do like a course or anything, because I could understand the context, and I could essentially just figure it out as I read more and more contracts. And that's when I began to learn. Oh, okay. So this particular contract there's a function that allows the admin to set the selfies, but there's no limits on it, so they could just set the selfies to 100 and basically use that as a essentially to make the contract a honeypot. And there were loads of other little things that these malicious devs would do. Like another one which they would do is they would have like a secret mint function that would essentially allow them to mint themselves like a trillion tokens, and then they would suddenly just dump the entire thing and just crash the entire token. And there would be other cool, not cool, but like interesting stuff that they would do. Obviously, people started looking out for oh, is the ownership renounced? Because obviously, if the ownership is renounced, then there's less of a risk because those they can't do stuff like adjust the buy and sell fees and stuff like that. But what they would
And back
actually end
then,
up
you could
doing
sneak
is,
all these things in. You could sneak them all in because no one was really, deep diving. Like you and me, we were just degenning in. Like we didn't know what the fuck
yep,
we were doing.
yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, I've lost more money than I want. I'm too embarrassed to admit. But anyways, so like they would do like other weird stuff, like they would renounce the ownership, and then you will see it on like BSC scan that, oh, if you go onto the read tab, and then you can see that, oh yeah, the owner address is address 0, so it's been renounced. But then what they would do is they would have like a random like state variable that had their address, and then they would have like another random hidden mint function that would look if the message sender is that state variable, that constant, and basically they would still be able to do the same thing, but people would get
Hmm.
fooled because they would think that the ownership got renounced. So I kind of picked up on these patterns, and there were quite a few of them. And every time before I would ever like put in $15-20 in the token, I would always check to see if it had any of these like sketchy things in the code. And but I started doing that for every single time. And if I'm not sure if you know, but for micro cap tokens, which is I think like a more of a formal term for these like really small like new tokens that used to come out, um, timing is very very important. Let's say a new token comes out, the difference between investing within a few minutes of that token
Hmm.
launching and investing like 20 or 30 minutes later can be huge. It could be 10x, 20x, 30x. So there was a massive difference. So speed was very important. And obviously, me reading this stuff manually took time. So I thought, hey, this can be automated. And that's how the idea for Lightchaser came about. I mean, it wasn't even called Lightchaser back then. Um, but yeah, so I created this program, and at the time I didn't actually know that these other tools like Slither existed and stuff like that. So I was just kind of building it from scratch, and I personally always was in favor of building stuff from scratch anyway. So I just kind of went down that route, and it was only when I was decently like down that road when I realized, hey, oh, okay, these other tools exist as well. But obviously, those were more like vulnerability detection. I was like, I wanted to build my own thing that was completely unique. So I kind of had like a self-imposed rule that I won't look at any online references or on any online resources because I was worried that if I did that, I would just kind of end up with like a Slither clone.
Hmm.
Um, so I just kind of went into it completely blind. But I did have somewhat of an automation background, so that's how Lightchaser V1 came about. Oh, this is also something. Yeah, Lightchaser was actually just one half of the overall project. I actually created two frameworks. I created a contract analysis framework, which is obviously now we know as Lightchaser, but I also created a blockchain analysis framework, which would use ETH RPC calls to like check stuff like for buy and sell fees. I had a really cool module which would essentially do an ETH RPC call and check to see if there were any like Uniswap swaps, and it would like grab that data and it would look at the amount that the user wanted and compare to how much they got, and I would use that to determine the buy and sell fees. So it could also tell me very very accurate fees as well. And obviously that was a framework, so you can actually code detectors for that framework as well. But that's data v1. I never developed that further, unfortunately. I only further developed Lightchaser. So yeah, that's kind of like the beginning of Lightchaser, I
That's
suppose.
that's really cool. And I'm curious. So you started with C. You had a C background, and you said if you know C, you're clearly a C maxi. You said all languages after that kind of come easy. Why do you think that is?
I think because C kind of forces you to learn the programming fundamentals really, really well, whereas a lot of more modern programming languages kind of abstract all of the very technical, difficult to learn stuff. Like for example, with Python, you never even need to worry about stuff like pointers really.
Hmm.
So because it kind of forces you to learn those deep fundamentals, it kind of makes other programming languages far easier. And I also have a very mild background in assembly as well. I done some assembly as well, so and obviously C. So I think that kind of gave me a very good foundation. But no, C wasn't actually my first language. Python was, but I fully got comfortable with C as well, and then that's when I learned Solidity. And I don't think it was my Python experience that made Solidity easy. It was rather my C experience that made it easier.
Interesting. Yeah, it was. I mean, I tried C way back when I was 16. I knew the basics, but I could definitely see what you're talking about, and probably C++ too, just because of the object oriented stuff and Solidity. But I would say for me, it was like a JavaScript. It was like such a clear carryover to Solidity, but I didn't have that background that I think what you're saying is vital. Like to have the knowledge behind just dealing with pointers, dealing with memory allocation, malloc, and everything in C, and then having an assembly background. Now I see how beneficial that could be to really have that when the deeper you dive in the EVM.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I don't just think it's programming exclusive as well. I think in general, if you learn the harder variant of something,
Hmm.
the stuff that you actually need to use on the day-to-day basis becomes far more easier. So like in the UK you have A levels. I'm not really sure what the US equivalent of that is, but I did further maths for my for A levels, and because further maths was so much harder than the normal A level maths, it made the A level maths far easier. So if I personally believe if I just did the regular math, I would have found it harder than I did because I did further maths.
Hmm. And so when you made V1, what was like? Did you have like what was the first kind of detector that you put in there?
Oh, the first detector was very simple because, like I mentioned, those like hidden mint functions, those were very dangerous. So I would the first detector I ever made was specifically for that. But unfortunately, with the timing of Lightchaser, when I actually completed it, I never actually got to use it for its original intended purpose. It kind of just went on the back burner, and then Code Arena announced bot race and said, "Hey, I have Lightchaser." I mean, it wasn't called Lightchaser back then, but
Mm.
I already have something. Let me just use that and build upon that. And then I quickly developed V2 and then V3, and then and now I'm at V4.
And I mean, you dominated with the bot races, right? I mean, I don't hear of any other bot out there. I mean, we all heard the AI hype about all these AI auditors, but I mean, the bot races for Code Arena, it's exclusively you that wins that, right?
Oh no, not exclusively. I'd say like towards the tail end of the Code Arena bot races, that's when Lightchaser became definitively the strongest bot.
Hmm.
So I'd say from late 2023 to Q2 2024, that region, that was like the final, I'd say 6 or so months of the Code Arena bot races. I think that's when Light Chaser became the strongest bot. But then unfortunately, Code Arena paused the bot races. So yeah.
Why? What happened there? I didn't stay up on that. Why'd they pause it?
I don't 100% know for sure because I don't think they made a full official announcement on why they were paused. But I have my own theories, which I'm not 100% sure if that was the reason. But I think at the time they also like got rid of analysis. So I think one of the main reasons was that they kind of wanted the primary focus to just be the high and medium pool, and obviously the bot races and the analysis were taking away from the high medium pools. I think that was one of the core reasons as well. They wanted to put more focus on that. And I think another thing was that the way the bot races were going, I think the detectors became very, I'd say, non-critical and gas heavy. So I think they kind of lost their direction in a weird way. And I think
Hmm.
that was primarily due to what the meta became. to make the main focus high and medium findings, because during when bot races got paused, so did the analysis reports, and believe the QA report part also got drastically reduced. I mean, they restructured that as well. So I think that was one of the main business reasons, but perhaps another reason was that because the meta became very accuracy focused, a lot of the meta essentially rewarded like having loads of non-critical and gas findings rather than the development of really cool like high medium findings. So I think that might have also played a role, because essentially what happened was that the penalty for essentially having a false positive in the high and medium detector became so great that you were almost better off just adding a ton of some very very simple, very very boring non-critical and gas findings. So the reports just became these really really big reports full of NC and gas findings. So I think they began to lose their direction as well. I did I did try to like advocate that perhaps we should do some like changes to the system to alleviate that, but yeah, I think typically speaking, the that meta kind of just once it came about, it kind of just stayed that way, and I think like a great example of this is let's say a low detector. A low detector was typically worth 5 points. But if your load detector had even one false positive, the penalty could be up to 15 minus 15 points. So instead of taking that risk of adding a new load detector, you are better off adding another five NatSpec detectors, which are borderline useless. But they're like that's what the meta became, and I think that kind of accelerated the end because they began to lose their value over time. And I really did kind of like try to like advocate for us to like move away from that. Like one of the things I proposed was that we raise the bar of to get a grade A, because I'm not sure if you know, but there was three grades that you could, no, four grades you can get. There was the winner, grade A, grade B, and then
What
grade
is
C.
what would you say are like the limitations of your bot? Like why can't it find some like why is it so hard to find a high critical for the bot?
Honestly, I would say now that is no longer a limitation for Lightchaser. I think now it's at a point where it can actually quite reliably find high end criticals, um, and high critical and mediums as well. But that's kind of like a recent development. I think the advent of Lightchaser V4 really helped to get Lightchaser to that point, and the results that we've been getting privately in private engagements and contests as well, like we got a solo medium very recently,
Mhm.
is looking pretty bright for Lightyear now, and I think I'm confident that that limitation, thanks to V4, has been mostly alleviated now. It's very rare for me to come across a vulnerability where I'm like, okay, Lightchaser doesn't have the complexity ceiling to capture this.
Mhm. And so you are strictly doing static and dynamic analysis. You're not using any LLMs with V4.
That's right. I personally believe that in the long run, static and dynamic analysis will be superior to LLM based detection.
And why is that?
I think it's primarily because of reliability and of the actual findings themselves. The thing with AI detection is, I think there was a blog post about this. There was about a LLM finding a 0 day, but when you actually read it, it said that something like out of the 100 times it got asked to find a vulnerability in that piece of code, it only found it like 7 times. And I think that's a major major problem with LLMs. It tends to
Mhm.
hallucinate so much, and its results are incredibly unreliable. Like even if you prime it really well, that like half the, or perhaps like 30 or 40% of the time it will find the bug, but the other times it won't find it. It's kind of a guessing game, and it tends to fall apart the bigger and more complex a code base gets. And whereas with
Mhm.
static and dynamic analysis, you don't have that limitation. The limitation is the framework, the detector, and the detector developer, all things which I have full control over, which is why I am going all in on Lightchaser.
And obviously your code is not open source, so I could just talk about Slither since I used to use that quite a bit, and it would produce a report in seconds. And a lot of the findings, you look for anything that could be insightful, but the vast majority, it was to be ignored. If I see reentrancy, a lot of that was all you look at it manually and you say, well, this isn't really legit. How does Lightchaser kind of do things differently?
So I think what you're primarily talking about is false positives, and false positive is something that, in general, any detection tool struggles with quite a lot. And with Lightchaser, the way I'm trying to alleviate that is, but let's say Lightchaser generates a report. I will myself go through that report and tag any detectors that produce false positives, and then essentially repair those detectors. And if you do that enough times, a detector gets fully matured and more or less stops producing false positives. So that is something that can be alleviated given enough time. But
Mm.
I definitely feel that that is a limitation of and detection tools in general.
And how does your tool work? So say if you have a cross chain protocol and you run it through the, and I don't know how you load the code base in your tool or anything, but you run it through the tool and say that requires context of Solidity talking to Rust and then talking to another Solidity contract. Can it do that or no?
Well, it can definitely abstract. Like if you provide essentially the Solidity code from both ends, the source chain and the destination chain, then it can detect some stuff. But actual like the Rust stuff, it can't really do that.
Or is that like a V5? Is that a future version where you could have the whole flow kind of plugged in if it's in, for the back end layer in different languages?
Absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of the work that would be required for that is creating a Rust parser as well. So, but it's definitely something that's feasible.
No, that would be very cool, man. And uh, I mean, everyone's talking about LLM, this, AI, AI auditing, and all the all the bug finders, and they're they're kind of halfway spooked. They're like, okay, does somebody else have an edge that I don't have? And if they do, I want that edge. And then people try to use it, and they get false positives, they get hallucinations, and I think this is a time where you could develop a secret edge, like a lot of things in crypto, whether it's trading or MEV or whatever. You can have your own edge and just not say shit, and no one's going to know about it. And maybe Lightchaser is one of those edges, and I kind of like that you're keeping it closed source because why not? It's your tool. You're able to make revenue off it, and you're building it by yourself, kind of doing it your own way without saying I'm going to copy Slither or anything like that. But like what are you going to use this tool for outside of doing um, the audit competitions? Are you going to also do bug bounties as well, or have you already done those?
100%. So, uh,
Oh, really?
I think like the general pipeline for Lightchaser was that first become the best tool in general, like amongst other tools, and I think Lightchaser has more or less accomplished that. And then the second mission statement after that was get to a point where Lightchaser can very reliably perform very well in contests. So myself and my awesome teammate Nate, so we use Lightchaser to handle the detection, and the write-ups and everything is handled by Nate. And we've begun to get some very, very promising results by doing that. And the third mission statement after that is to use it on bug bounties. So that's part of the pipeline. And I, I can't share too much because some of the stuff is like NDA stuff, but we 100% have found valid highs on live stuff. But that's pretty much all I can share in that regard. And verified, mind you.
That
Um,
okay.
so
Very very scary stuff for us, man. What is our career? Are they in danger now
no, not at
because
all.
Light Chasers on the prowl?
Lightchaser is definitely going to get better, and I think one of the with Lightchaser in general is that I'm not necessarily trying to maximize it for monetary reasons, like monetary stuff, like in the sense of right now with as powerful as Lightchaser is and has become, that I could definitely focus a lot more on outreach, get more clients. But because I'm so focused on these mission statements, I actually try to limit how much time I spend on client work, so I could just focus on building itself. But like even once Lightchaser gets to like the third mission statement, I don't believe that it will completely get rid of bug bounties at all. It would definitely be able to compete, in my opinion. Obviously, I'm very biased in favor of Lightyear, so I definitely think it would be able to compete alongside bounty hunters, but I don't think it will replace them. But yeah.
This makes me never want to disclose any bug, any bug fix anywhere, so you can't train your detectors on it. Fuck. Okay, no one's gonna come public with any more write ups after this.
Oh,
Uh, I had a question from a guy in X Rami. He said,
cool.
this whole light chaser thing. He says, did you have manual review experience
Yeah.
before you did this?
So I'd say in 2022 I did manual because obviously, like I mentioned, I got decently good at reading contracts because of the whole pancake swap stuff. So I was like,
Mhm.
okay, so I have that skill. That skill was generally quite rare at the time. There was very few people who knew how to read contracts and find stuff in contracts, and obviously I started reading a lot more audit reports. But at the time, there was very few reports to learn from. So I actually like learned a lot from certain reports at the time, because like there were so many of them at the time, and back then there wasn't any like stuff like Solo did or anything like that. So
Mhm.
I trained
Right,
myself
right.
up on that, and yeah, I did do manual audits for a while. Then I stopped to focus on my studies, and then pretty much right after university I started again. But then my full 9 to 5 job began, and then also I had to leave it to focus on that. And then obviously now I'm all in, so like I've left that and I'm back in Web3 security, but as an automator.
Beautiful. So, all right. So there was this tweet by Dacian, and I think you replied to it. You're aware of Dacian.
Yeah, yeah, legendary
He
guy.
was talking about AI auditors. Yeah, and he said these three things. So he said number one, uh, once, and he was saying, when we should be considering them seriously. Number one, regularly finding 80 to 90% of what a junior auditor can find. You think Lightchaser's already at that, right?
I'm fairly confident at that. I'm kind of basing it off like contest results and how it's performed as a known issues list. I'd say that for the contest platforms that Lightchaser does produce known issues list, I think it does actually find a lot of the stuff that junior auditors are submitting. Um, yeah, like if you actually just go on to either Cantina or the Cypher Discord server and just type down Lightchaser, you see a lot of people, oh no, we found all my bugs and stuff like that. So I think it's either close or is already at that point. But yeah, that's for
Okay.
point one.
Shit. Okay. All right, new guys, listen. Okay, you're fucked. Number two. I mean, no. To be honest, I mean, this is progress. Okay, whether you like it or not, the train's moving the station. So you need to just level up your game. And the more complex bugs you could find that the computer can't find is all the better. Use your human brain, use your intuition, and don't release your bug reports. All right. Number two is find the same or ideally more as static analyzers, but with drastically lower false positive rates. Where would you say it is on that?
So obviously, with my mission statements being primarily to be able to compete very, very well on contests and then in the future bug bounties, my primary focus has been on building as many detectors as I can that are high quality. Like I don't just spam detectors and kind of hoping for the best. But obviously, with that being my mission statement, of course, Lightchaser is going to get false positives, and because my primary focus is detector innovation, that
Mm-hmm.
can obviously result in more false positives. But I do believe, like I mentioned before, the process to actually mature those detectors isn't super complex. You just keep on obviously using Lightchaser, and over time you'll know, okay, so these detectors performed produced false positives, so I just repair them, and you do that enough times, and they fully mature and they don't produce false positives anymore. So that is something that will 100% get alleviated with time, but it's not my primary focus right now. Right now, my primary focus is pure detection power.
Okay. All right. And the last one he said, which was the holy grail, regularly find high impact findings that no or few other auditors can find in public contest or bug bounties. And you stated that I think you're there, right?
Um, I wouldn't say fully because although we do
Or
consistently
getting
get
there.
like we're getting that 100%, but we did actually get a solo finding a couple of weeks ago. So and obviously we found some stuff which can't talk too much about, but so there is some like evidence that we are approaching that as well. But once the point where I can say that yes, we are consistently getting solo high mediums, that I can't say for sure, but I don't think it's too far away. I mean, at least I hope
Mm.
not too far away.
Could you walk me through like all right, so say so you say your focus is adding detectors, honing detectors. When you want to add a new one, like say you see a new, I guess you stay up to date on audit reports and bug bounty findings, and you look at something like what do? You see something novel, and you think, okay, I don't have a detector for this. Can you walk us through it without sharing any trade secrets?
Yeah, absolutely. So Lightchaser has gone to a point where the complexity ceiling of the framework is capable of finding most bugs. Like it's very rare for me to come across a bug report or a contest finding that like, oh, Lightchaser doesn't have the capabilities of detecting this. Rather, what the limitation tends to be is, am I able to abstract that issue so it's applicable to other code bases? Because some findings are so protocol specific that I find it very
Mm,
difficult to abstract those to other protocols. So I think that ability is very much experience based. Like I've been building detectors for years now, so I'm very good at spotting what detectors are capable of being applied to other repos. But yeah, I think you would definitely build that intuition. So that's like the first thing I'll look at. Can I abstract this? And let's say I found a finding that yes, I can abstract that. And what you will find is that the bug bounty report or the order finding report on Code Arena, wherever it may be, will be very, very long and very wordy. Like it'd be so much detail. So as it automates, it's kind of hard to kind of figure out. Okay, so how am I supposed to automate this? But a trade secret, which hopefully be helpful to automators, is the trick is to just go all the way down to the bottom and look at the mitigation. Because if you actually look at the mitigation,
mm,
you can see exactly what parts of the code caused that vulnerability in the first place, and then you can you work your way backwards from there. So that essentially what I'll do is I'll look at that. Oh, okay, so these are the stuff to look out for, and yes, this is something I can abstract. Then I would essentially I have like a e-ink tablet, and I just kind of write down all the things that need to go wrong for this vulnerability to occur, and it's usually about anything between 1 to 5 things that need to go wrong, and sometimes more. Like I have some really complex detectors. Like I had a detector for my 1000th detector, which I'll explain after this. But yeah, so there's usually 1 to 5 things that cause that vulnerability to happen in the first place, and then I create a separate detector for each one of those steps, and I just essentially daisy chain them all together. To look for, oh, okay, so that went wrong. Okay, then has this also gone wrong? Has that also gone wrong? And when everything goes wrong together, then you have a finding. But yeah, but
so you
that's
have
like the general thing.
1,000 detectors so far.
1247.
And everything has been hand coded, organically grass fed coded by yourself.
Oh yes, I never use LLMs for coding.
No vibe coding. Old school. I love it, man. You're now old school as
Yeah,
but I
one
think I think
100%.
I think it's better, man, because if you turn it over to AI, you'll just you'll look at it again, you won't understand it, and something will be fucked up and you'll have no idea what it was.
Yeah, 100%. I personally, I do, as useful as LLM coding may be, I don't think it will be able to replicate two avenues of coding, and that is very, very complex coding or very, very creative program coding. So if you are building a project that's one or both of these things, then manual coding will be the way to go, in my opinion.
Hmm. What do you think? Do you know? Are you aware of Glider?
Yes, I know Glider.
So they have, I guess you just frame it as like a query framework. I mean, it's a bit different, right,
Um,
than what you're
I
doing.
Yeah. It's quite different. But I think it is, at the end of the day, a detection framework. So I would still consider it a a bot kind of.
It is there a way? I like the idea behind it. Is I mean, take all the contracts that are out there and have this very specific kind of detection query framework where you can really hone in on popular patterns or whatever you're looking for. Do you are you looking at like having Lightchaser have that functionality as well to just scan all the deployed contracts out there with your all your detectors and find a way to kind of process that massive data into something useful?
That's not on my pipeline right now. I think my primary focus is to get good at contests, get good at bug bounties. But to actually scan all deployed code on EVM, that's not really something on my radar. Like instead of doing that, I'd more likely just run against all bug bounty programs instead.
Hmm. Is this just you?
So, in terms of the Lightchaser's development and programming, then yes, I'm a one-man band for that. Although for Code Arena or Sherlock, I do compete with my awesome teammate Nate, and like he does like the write-ups, the POC, the remediations, but the detection is handled by Lightchaser.
Okay. Okay.
I
Very
hybrid
cool,
approach,
man.
and I think that's going to be a cool like team setup going forward.
Yeah. I'm looking at the future where you have a great bug bounty hunter or auditor teaming up with a tool like yours, and yeah, you work maybe hand in hand, and maybe that's the path going forward.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is actually something that we've been offering privately. I mean, we just started offering it, and we've been getting some very good results and great feedback as well. And like, I do have a bit of a like corny like code name for it. I call it like like internally the Lightyears and Mecha program because it sounds cool. But yeah, like Lightyears is like the mech, and like the hybrid auditors like the Mecha pilot, and
Hmm.
that's like the setup that we have, and we used to compete on these contest platforms, and we've been getting promising results. So I do feel that there's a lot of scope to grow that idea, so that is also something I'm very much looking forward to. Right now it's just myself and Nate doing that approach, but going like in the future, I might consider bringing some more people in to do like the hybrid auditing stuff. But although when that happens, Nate will still have like first pick on the jobs and content because obviously he was here from the start. But
Hmm.
yeah,
It's interesting. I just got an offer yesterday from a guy developing, like an AI auditing thing, and he says it's posting some strong results, and there's not that many false positives, and he needs basically the same kind of setup to have some guy kind of review and POC and make sure whatever legit, and there's like a revenue share. But I have to look at these things because I know it's progressing, and I don't know the code behind it, so I have to check it out.
100%. I mean, I do think these hybrid teams may start cropping up more and more as time goes on.
Yeah. Yeah. And what about, I mean, it's not a huge ecosystem, but what about Viper? Is it worth putting the time into doing detectors for that?
Yeah, so that's something that I really had to consider is do I support other languages with Lightchaser? But the reason why I ultimately decided against it was because of the time investment and
Hmm.
because the amount of time it would take for me. Because I typically speaking, I pretty much always code my stuff from scratch. Like Lightchaser is 100% every single line of code is built from scratch. Like I don't even use any like pip install libraries or anything like that. I think I import JSON, and I used to use NumPy, but not anymore. But yeah, so like obviously with that kind of setup, I would have to create a parser for these new languages, and parsers take a tremendous amount of time to make, and an even longer time to fully mature. Like my Lightchaser parser was producing passing errors for a few years until I fully ironed out all the bugs, and now it's very reliable and very stable. For me to do that for another language will take a considerable amount of time, but who knows in the
Mm-hmm.
future? I do have some plans for perhaps having Move support or Rust support. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's like far in the future.
Very cool, man. And so for the bug hunters out there that are shaking in their boots thinking you're going to come take their paydays, what would you say are some limitations that you don't see, maybe some insurmountable limitations for, maybe the next year or two? Give the guys some hope.
Honestly, in my honest opinion, I don't think manual auditing is going anywhere. And I don't just think that would be for the next year or two. I think that would be at least for the next 5 years. So if you are a manual auditor listening to this, I am like obviously not to sound too arrogant, but like on the cutting edge and the automation side of things, and I don't believe manual auditing is going anywhere anytime soon, and that applies for bug bounty hunting and contests, and obviously like solo and team orders as well. I don't think that's going anywhere. Rather, the way I feel automation is going to be just another stage in the overall process. And even on the Lightchaser website, I mentioned this quite clearly that first you get like a Lightchaser report, perhaps a hybrid report, and then you get team manual audit, then a contest, then a bug bounty. So I just don't believe that manual auditing is going anywhere time soon. And the one of the main reasons why is that a lot of these very important bugs that need to be found are very protocol specific, and
Mm.
these are things that, in my opinion, manual auditors will always be the best at. Like even if Lightchaser get becomes really good, or these LLMs actually become worth the hype, which I don't think they will personally, but um, I still believe that those very protocol specific or complex bugs will always be there.
So, if I am reading this correct, your recommendation is what I'm thinking is that if you're trying to do just grab a protocol and look for some bugs, those kind of bugs might be already tackled. But if you're a security researcher looking at a protocol and you're willing to get deep into the weeds on that protocol, you're going to be able to outperform these automated tools because you'll have that context tailored for that specific protocol because you put the time into it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think like the main impact automated tools will have is it might when an auditor just kind of goes through a report and they just submit like weird ERC 20 findings and stuff like that, or like these kind of like findings that are applicable to loads of different protocols. I think those might fade away, but the very protocol specific stuff will be here to stay for a very long time, I believe.
Okay, and when your comment on the LLMs, why do you think they're not going to kind of reach the hype expectation that everyone's putting out there?
So I don't necessarily think that LLMs aren't useful. I just feel that they're overhyped, maybe 2 or 3 times what they actually can do. And the reason why I don't think that they'll be able to like get better over time, I do think they will get better over time, but I think the hype will always be like a couple of notches above where it's actually at. And but I think only time will tell. I think this is one of those things that might age well, might age poorly, but my personal gut feeling is that LLMs won't take away manual auditors' jobs.
Hmm. Yeah, I hope not. Every time I plug something into it, I'm like, yeah, it still doesn't know what the fuck it's doing.
Yeah,
But it's like I'm not smart enough to understand. I told an LLM to explain to me how it works, and it's so fucking complicated. Like I know the general idea behind it, but as far as like deep in the weeds, I don't get it. And I looked at some write up from the Claude team, the Anthropic team, and they said, they had Claude run like a shop, and it was doing things, and then it was hallucinating. And the creators of it said in their blog post, they said, we don't really know why it decided it was a real person and was coming to visit us and shit like that, where I'm like, if the guys making it don't really understand why it's doing what it's doing, um, well, I certainly don't. but I just think it's like, to find the limitations of it. I'm just not the smartest guy in the room when it comes to that. But when I hear guys like yourself, other guys on Twitter like Bernhard Mueller, Joseph Feist, when I hear them talk about like something fundamental is missing with, in quotes, the LLM based reasoning for it to be a real kind of player in this field. I respect those opinions, and I listen to them, even though like everyone tries to hype it up. In back of my head, I'm like, no, no, no. We still have a purpose here.
no, 100%. I mean, I think there are two main reasons. This is my personal opinion that people hype up AIs. One is they don't want to be left behind. They don't want to be that one person who like didn't take it seriously, and then it turns out AI was worth the hype, and then they get replaced or something along those lines. And the second is they kind of want to hype up wherever they're building. Oh, we incorporate AI, and then they could go to
Mm-hmm.
venture capitalists and raise 10 or 20 million. So, but yeah, like i I do get quite upset when I see man auditors like get worried about it, because I just don't see it happening anytime soon. And I think that disheartening um isn't great for the space, because I feel like it's going to put a lot of people off from getting into manual auditing, which I don't personally don't want. But yeah, only time will
Yeah.
tell.
So,
I'd say.
yeah, some people don't have a good view of the bots and all these tools. Like the guys, I had a new guy on the podcast I just put out, and guys like that. He was in Pakistan, and his monthly all in expense, he says, for a good life over there, $700, food, everything, rent, everything.
Yeah.
And so, trying to get into auditing or bug bounty hunting, guys would submit these low findings to get a little cash in their pocket, and now that opportunity is basically gone. And I think the bar will continue to get raised, which is good for overall security. But I mean, you're not going to satisfy everyone. I think that's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, no, 100%. But like on the flip side of that, I would personally consider Web3 security right now a blue ocean market, in the sense that I feel there's a lot of opportunities and the money is good and the work is interesting and fun. But
Mm-hmm.
when there isn't a barrier of entry, blue ocean markets very quickly become red ocean markets. So in my personal opinion, there being some sort of barrier of entry in the long run will be better, not only for current auditors, manual auditors, but also future manual auditors who want to join, because the gates to get in will be open for a longer period of time. Because if the bar was so low that anyone can like start competing and get like 20 or 30 high mediums on their profile and then start offering solo audits, the market will start to get so saturated that it would drive the prices down, and that won't be great for anyone. And also the quality of the audits themselves, in my opinion, might be subpar, because like if you do have a barrier of entry, like with Lightchaser, for example, it kind of forces auditors to become above that bar, and that will overall increase the quality, and in my opinion will increase the payout for the auditors who are able to stick with it and actually get to the level where their service is superior to what automation can provide.
Agreed. Agreed. And for guys out there, if you're seeing a field becoming more and more competitive, which I think Solidity, I think the auditing field, Solidity is the most popular smart contract language. When you see it becoming more and more competitive, which it is by every single day, go to a place where it's not as competitive, that less people are interested in. That could be Viper, that could be Rust, that could be Move, that could be some Moon Math, that could be whatever. Just pick something, it may be more difficult. You may have a hard time, a big vertical ascent to try to get up to speed on it, but it doesn't mean that time's not worth it. And then suddenly you're in the same position that others were in with Solidity, a couple years ago, and eventually, the crowd moves on to that topic. But if you stay ahead of the game, I think there's opportunities for you out there.
100%. And
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. And that also somewhat even applies to people who want to get into automation. You don't necessarily have to build a Solidity automation tool. You can. There's a huge need for equivalents in other programming languages like Rust or Move, Cairo. So there's also a lot of opportunity there, and Web3 in general is full of opportunities. Like two of my closest friends, they're twins. They're space architects, and they like design like moon bases and cool stuff like that. And they are looking to get into Web3 as well. And I think with the avenue that they're going to try and get into is Web3 architecture for, do you know, like, I forgot what it's called, like Meta? Like
As
the,
far
obviously
as,
you have those like virtual worlds and stuff. I
mhm,
forgot the metaverse, that's the word, and like
right.
build like design buildings for that and stuff. And there's actually a growing field there. So like Web3 in general has so many opportunities. So I think
I agree, man. It's massive. I wouldn't have started this podcast if I thought it was a growing market or a shrinking market.
yeah.
I think it's just beginning. I think look at Web 2 security, and then I look at the future of crypto, and it's like, dude, we haven't even started yet. So I'm a optimist, man. There's always opportunity to be had. You just need to seize the day.
No,
I
no,
wanted to ask you something
100%.
else. You had a tweet out there, and I'm into my fitness, right? You had a tweet regretting not switching to free weights for weight training earlier. I've been getting PRs every week for months now. What happened?
Oh no, like this is like a really like tragic story. Like essentially, I've I've been obviously going to the gym for years now, but I kind of had to go to like a smaller gym that was closer to my home because I didn't really have the time to commute to like the well-equipped gyms. But I was like, okay, it's fine. They have plenty of machines, so that should be good enough. But I was at that gym for 2 years, going like at least 3 or 4 times a week and train. At least I thought I trained hard, but none of my lifts improved. I pretty much stayed at the exact same strength for 2 years straight. And I was like, okay, let me leave this. Let me just try free weights. But obviously, I didn't want to do the whole commute, so I just bought these adjustable dumbbells, power
Oh
blocks,
yeah,
and as soon as I started those, every single week my lifts were going up, and it was crazy. And it's been like that for months now, and I really like wish I started that earlier. I feel like I lost a lot of time.
I love to hear it, man. Free weights are the secret.
Yeah,
It's
100%.
just you're engaging every single muscle with that range of motion, whereas a machine very much limit you. So kettlebells, free weights, all that stuff is essential to becoming a hugely based giga Chad with high testosterone, getting all the babes and finding all the
100%.
bugs. Mr. Chase the Light, thank you very much for coming on. This is really cool, man. We will see everybody next time on the blockchain.